Women in Print Alliance is dedicated to connecting, empowering, and advancing women in the print industry. As part of Printing United Alliance, we're fostering a more inclusive future through advocacy, education, and networking opportunities that connect women across the entire industry. Join us as an individual to grow your career, expand your network, and access exclusive resources, or enroll your entire organization to show your commitment to supporting women in print. Become a member today at womeninprintalliance.org and help us shape the future of print.
Welcome to Her Imprint, part of the Impressions Exchange. I'm Denise Gustafson, your host. This podcast celebrates the remarkable women who are transforming the printing industry. We'll explore their journeys, from challenges to triumphs, and share the stories that leave a lasting imprint. Today, I have with me Susan Foley. She's CEO with Diamond Envelope. So, Susan, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. To get us started, can you tell us a little bit about Diamond Envelope and what you do?
Yeah, Diamond Envelope is based in Aurora, Illinois. We are a custom direct mail envelope manufacturer. We make over 1 billion envelopes a year, and we have over 100 employees, 3-shift operation. I've been in the role I'm in for about 10 years now. I love our family business. We are women-owned, certified, which is really important for diversity supplier spend. We are very active in the community. We believe getting women involved in manufacturing as well as high school students educated on that there are good careers and roles within manufacturing is extremely important. And we have an average tenure of our employees of about 12 to 15 years. And we have 3 employees that celebrated 40 plus years with us this year.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're 42 years old. We were founded in 1984 by my mom and dad. And it's just been great.
That is amazing. You're like speaking my love language, talking with kids, talking about women in manufacturing and how viable a career it is for so many,
Yeah.
which I think a lot of people just don't even think about, honestly.
Yeah, and when I try to tell the print story and the manufacturing story, I think what people miss is they look at those 2 titles and that's all they think about. And I have started to craft a different message to get further, different populations. And it has to do with, you don't have to come work at Diamond Envelope. But hey, maybe you go work down the street at or Donnelly or Epsilon or the Cap Ones of the world, and you buy envelopes in your role. That this is not just about working in print specifically, but you could be buying print. And you don't have to be necessarily in procurement or purchasing. What about joining a company our size as an HR director or a supply chain person, someone in shipping and receiving, one of the engineers on the manufacturing floor? So I try to tell the message that we are more than just Diamond Envelope trying to get you to come work with us for good, viable careers. But this is a good, viable industry for the long term to attach to.
Best kept secret everywhere, I swear.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people, they hear manufacturing, and I don't know if they think car manufacturing, doing the same exact thing monotonously. I don't know what comes to mind when they think manufacturing, but print is definitely anything but that.
Exactly. Like we're doing custom work. So like we're constantly changing over. We're a little bit of your unique shop. We're not your smallest envelope manufacturer. We're not the biggest. We are a very strong competitive middle market player that we can compete with the large companies. But that's because we're nimble. We have a very flexible and versatile machine set. So at any given point, whether people want to run more high end, your soft touch aqueous, your flat litho pieces, versus your high volume web equipment, we can do a little bit of both. So we can service both ends of a large, say, financial or healthcare segment customer that has both that direct marketing and acquisition component, as well as has like the billing and renewal and card services end of the businesses.
Which is cool to be able to be that nimble. So you're large enough to really take on those large orders, but small enough to be able to shift as needed.
Yes, exactly.
Now, you said your mom and dad started the company.
Yes.
So,
They
how did you get involved? Is this something that you were looking forward to doing, that you knew that you were going to be taking over? Or did you have a little detour before you ended up here?
A small detour.
Okay.
I grew up in the family business. I grew up here coming on Saturdays and rollerblading around the old plant. Now that's not allowed because we are an OSHA sharp site, so we are one of the safest workplaces in Illinois.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. So my kids will not be rollerblading around heavy envelope equipment that we have today. But it was definitely fun, and I would bring friends with me, and they loved it. Eddie, our plant manager, who's now a senior advisor to me, he's been with us for 40 years. He has done science projects with me in the machine shop just to get my experience. And like, I remember bringing in this pulley system I made, and the teachers, I've never seen anything like this. And like, that's what happens when you spend a whole Saturday at Diamond Envelope in the machine shop. So I really grew up in this business every summer since 8th grade. I had an intern here. When I wasn't at volleyball camp, I was at Diamond Envelope in the summers, full days, had to be dressed like the office workers and make an impact. And it was learn every little piece of the company. That experience has carried with me this entire time. There is not one thing I could ask a staff member to do that I haven't done myself or could do today and just go do myself. And I pride myself in that. I went to college at Penn State University and shocked my dad when I decided I was going to take an internship with Procter and Gamble in their Augusta dry laundry plant.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was really exciting. It was exciting to be in Augusta, Georgia, be in a new location for 3 months, and it was a good experience. I ended up going back to Penn State for my senior year and was recruited by a couple large Fortune 500 companies to enter their supply chain programs. I really wanted to be close to home. So it came down to my dad matching my offer letters that I had, which my brothers had never learned that tactic. They weren't quite happy when they saw the salary. And my dad was like, I don't really have a choice here. And I want her in the family business. So this is how it's going to go down. I learned the difference between big corporation and smaller entities, which was really important for my growth and development. I think a large corporation, I could have done very well there as well, but to have immediate impact on the business can only happen in an environment of your private family businesses. You see where your impact every day makes a difference. So I graduated from Penn State in 2008 with a degree in supply chain, started at Diamond Envelope with a manufacturing logistics manager role. I was planning my first major project implementation of an ERP system, and the Great Recession hit. And a lot of my friends lost their jobs. And so I was very blessed and fortunate to stay with Diamond Envelope. We went from a growing company to are we going to be able to make payroll next week? And you just don't get that experience.
Yeah, you don't. It's crazy to think about that, of how those economic wins can change so quickly.
Yeah.
And then you're in that position. Can we make payroll? Can we not make payroll? What's going to happen? Do we have to do layoffs? Or all of those things that you have to start looking at.
Yeah. My role went from this big project of ERP implementation, which I'm sure anyone that has done one of those can empathize with me, getting that off the ground. And we were about to sign the deal, and then everything just went south in the economy. So we pulled that back, and I felt so bad because we negotiated the heck out of that deal. And the salesman was like, "What? You're not going to do this?" But we had just purchased three new pieces of manufacturing equipment, and we were getting ready to grow. And at the same time, people weren't buying as much envelopes. So we had to regroup and figure out where our assets were best prioritized. And obviously, going to the envelope equipment and paying down our loans was extremely important. And it was all hands on deck. So my role was no longer existent. I was customer service and sales one day. I was helping in HR with risk control and safety the next day. I was looking for any penny we could save anywhere around here and purchasing and estimating. You really learn how to be gritty and scrappy at that point to find any dime that you need to save around the company.
You have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to. So that obviously you got through that.
Yes. Yeah. When the recovery happened, I ended up back in an operations role and I was looking for what I would do next. I wanted to touch finance at some point. I didn't know whether I was ready or wanted to do that yet. I love the manufacturing end of the business.
Mhm.
Again, going back to how we started, like manufacturing is really fun. It's also really hard. I wish my dad made Apple iPhones or something like that. But we make envelopes and it is a low margin, hard business, but very rewarding at the end of the day because we make something that's a domestic, made in America product. It's pretty exciting.
It's something that's tangible. It's something that has an immediate impact on the companies that you're working with.
It touches everybody's mailbox. It's the
Mhm.
one communication that is guaranteed that when people go to their mailbox, they see. And whether you flip through your mail and throw it all out or recycle it, hopefully, you're still looking at it. And all these brands are still trying to get in contact with you. They talk about digital fatigue so much because it's just delete. My Gmail at the end of the day is 50 to 100 unread messages. And I go select all unread, delete them. Where I'm more the person that I'm going to look at that mail piece, not just because I'm in the industry, but because it's there right in front of me. I have to do something with it.
You
Oh,
take it out of your mailbox. For us, our mailbox is by the street. And as you're walking back, you're flipping through the mail. You're looking and touching each piece as it comes in. I know for me, I'm a geek. I'm also feeling, I'm like, oh, this is a great coating. Or I do that, which is unfortunate, but yeah, that happens.
that's the exciting part though of the industry is like all the tactile sensory
Mhm.
promos and the trailing edge that we're doing now. Like my friends are calling me and going, "Are you doing this?" And I go, "Of course we're doing that. Like we have to compete." And it's just really fortunate to have the ability to have the equipment and the people to do that here. But it's also exciting to see what the marketers are putting out. And you also get the sustainability promo by working with the big mills and the paper that they bring in that is FSC and SFI certified. So that's really important too. Talks about the circular economy and the recycling and the sustainability of using a direct mail piece, which is important. It's a paper product. We are contributing back to the supply chain when we recycle it.
So, what is it that print that continues to excite you? Obviously, you are excited by, I can just tell you're very passionate about what you're doing. But what is it specifically? Is it because print is so tangible that you are making that impact? Is it something else that really continues to excite you about the market and the industry?
I think it's two things. The tactile and sensory is new technology for our industry, and that's very exciting. It's fun to be able to dress up the envelope is what I'll
Mhm.
call it. And with the vertical emboss, the diagonal emboss, bubble, any kind of custom embossing. Also the colors, like things that we used to not be able to do in-house and we'd have to go to a flat litho vendor. With the enhanced flexo equipment that we have and the CI presses and the color correction and the G7 certification, we can print more four color process in-house than ever in the history of the industry now. And so can my competitors too in the industry as a whole. That's extremely exciting to me that we can do that for our customers and save them money by doing it in one process, one pass versus having to take it offline and then put it back on our die cutters and converters. Another aspect that's extremely exciting to me is I'm very active in the Envelope Manufacturers Association, EMA. I'll be the first chairwoman in the history of the association that's over 100 years old.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And the lobbying that we are doing on behalf of the industry and our customers for postal reform. That has been very exciting to me to educate people on what we do, the good jobs that we have. Again, I keep going back to there are good careers in
Mhm.
print and envelope manufacturing. That's extremely important to me. So that excitement in Washington, D.C., and everything that Marie Clark, who's our EMA CEO, and ourselves are doing on the board is the trajectory for the future that we're working on. And lastly, the AI, incorporating AI into our facility and it's not about human capital reduction. I know in some industries you have to face that and that's where it's going. But for us, we're still a customer service manufacturing business. I'm not quite sure how robots fit into that one day. I think we have to keep our pulse on what's going on in the global AI and robotics world. But for right now, Diamond Envelope's insulated from the bigger ideas that other companies are doing. However, here at Diamond, AI is playing a role in how we go speed to market a lot quicker, how we get pricing back to our clients quicker, how we improve what our purchasing and estimating department is doing, how they can do pricing quicker and negotiations with our vendors quicker. All of that plays a role into freeing them up for the bigger picture items here, like the strategy, the growth, and continuous improvement. If they're stuck in the day to day daily tasks that are just, it takes 30 minutes or 20 minutes to do something versus 5, we have to know that right now. We have to get stuff out to our clients and vendors quicker and then be working on our continuous improvement stuff here at Diamond Envelope on the plant floor.
Yeah, for your AI, for you, it sounds like a lot of it's front office. So it's that estimating, it's all of that to really find the time so that way you can see what are the trends. You can actually take a broader, bigger strategic look at what is going on in the market. And it's something that AI definitely can help with as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, we work right now with a proprietary price book product, and we used to have to I still have my price book binder. We used to teach a price book class, almost imagine your math class, and have homework with it for every new customer service, account executive, and salesperson so they knew how to price small volume work up to a certain quantity. We worked with a proprietary AI company that's closed source and put our price book into this. And now we have created a tool that nobody needs to teach the price book class, or that tribal knowledge is not reliant on one person here. Just holds it until they retire or leave. So it also acts as an insurance plan for the future of the company as well.
It definitely does. Now, you've mentioned a couple things about manufacturing. You're trying to get more women into manufacturing, into print. That's one of those outdated notions that we have about the industry. We've talked about it a little bit, but what other misconceptions about the industry that you would love to correct, and especially in regards to women's role in this industry?
Yeah, I think I would take that question twofold.
Sure.
I think the number one thing overall that people need to know that male is dying and go green is it's a factor, but it's false. And I'm strong about that. Again, this is just my shared experience and my shared opinion. The omni channel is extremely important. Every day there are new brands being born. And you have, for example, a pay app that was once just paying between people for their manicure, pedicure, or the dog walker.
Yep.
These pay apps have now become credit card companies themselves and transactional financial institutions that are using mailings to the degree of millions per month for new acquisition, for card services, deployment of different promotions that they're doing. The mail is not dying, it's stabilizing at this point, and that the industry as a whole is a good industry to still invest in. I think, again, going back to the conversation we had earlier, that mail touches every household. And especially during COVID, how important was it that everybody got their COVID test kits, their bills in the mail, different opportunities to shop and know what promotions were going on that maybe weren't hitting your email inbox to keep the retail chains alive, the restaurants alive, the grocery stores alive. It's just every day the mail touches you.
I think it also reminded us, especially at COVID, of how much digital information we get. Because like you said, maybe they didn't see something that didn't come to their email, or maybe it came to them and there was 5,000 emails that they got that day and they just did Control Alt Delete and they just didn't see it. But mail is something that it's hard to ignore
Yeah,
as
exactly.
it's coming in.
Yeah, completely. The next aspect, a part of Diamond's and my strategic growth plan is really diversification and getting people to look at the envelope differently. So not just as a mail product, but also where can we use paper and envelopes to package things that currently exist in plastic and other types of carton products that a soft envelope, small, large, in between, could be used. And it's a fully sustainable, recyclable product if you're not putting a window in it. So I try to look for any kind of retail product, whether it's shipping a t-shirt. I think my Aritzia long sleeve t-shirts came in a open end large envelope. So that's really neat to me, is how you can get rid of some of the plastic flexibility bubble wrap and replace it with an envelope on certain products that don't need that extra padding. Add a paper padding solution.
Yeah, especially if you're shipping a t-shirt. It really doesn't need bubble wrap because it's not going to break like something that maybe is glass or that has some fragility to it. So why put it in a padded envelope if it's really not needed?
Exactly. And the other thing too is if weather and the elements is a concern for whatever's in the package, we make Tyvek envelopes in this
Hmm.
country. There's a Tyvek non-tear envelope, and they are non-tear because they make babies' books out of them now, out of Tyvek. My daughter had one, and it's really neat to use those every day.
It's amazing what the technology and how far the technology has come over the years with what we can do with it. And I think that's for a lot of people, they just don't understand like how far the advances have come as well and how that's impacting us as an industry because we've been through, like you said, you've been through the recessions where you have to count every penny. That's not something that's new. There's that cyclical nature of the economy. Printers are very resilient as a whole. And you can see that for companies that have been around, your company's been around for 40 plus years. Others, you have some in the hundreds. You can just imagine the things that they've seen in terms of the economy, in terms of the technology, and yet they're still there and they're still thriving, which is really something to be said because there's some other companies that have completely fallen by the wayside.
Yeah, absolutely. I think though that starts with we're second generation in the business. So with each generation of family business, it gets harder and harder. And I imagine that happens in non-traditional, non-family businesses as well. As the torch passes, everyone kind of has their own agenda. But if you stay rooted in the core business and your core business is solidified and taken care of every day, your people, a part of your culture, that they feel welcome, they feel valued. I think that's extremely important to the longevity of the business. And it's when you start to trail off that things start to change within the organization. And then people start to question, why am I coming to work here? One of the most challenging things I've had happen in the last year, but also over time, was when a tenured employee turned in their notice.
Mm.
And the Susan that exists today looks a lot different than 10 and 15 years ago. I remember when we would sit in those meetings and we'd be like, why are you leaving? And we'd be so upset and attached to this person. And I would just think to myself, how are we going to survive? How are we going to survive this resignation? Today, we are a little bit more positive
Mhm.
and understanding that certain people have to take a different path and journey than we may like, and they may not stay here forever. Most recently, we had a tenured employee that turned in their resignation, and I did not want to see them go. But at the same time, Diamond Envelope had different plans in place. We wanted to start succession planning to the path that they were on as well and meet them on that path, not do anything earlier or later. And every collaboration at every turn, I was just met with resistance. And it didn't seem enjoyable for this person to come to work. It didn't seem productive every day at work. And so it was just best for both of us to part ways happy, and that was a really hard lesson to learn. But I go back to my core values of transparency. And I understand that maybe some of that's out of fear for the job, the role, but to silo and keep that tribal knowledge closed doesn't allow for anybody else's growth or succession into the company. At the size we are today, we just can't afford to not have a backup plan and the opportunity to grow. And the one thing that I try to get across here, and I'm vocal, I'm transparent and honest. There's really nothing you can't ask me that I won't give an answer to. I listen to my staff. I may not agree, but you're never going to hear a no at first. I'll ask, tell me more about that. And a part of that has to do with, again, going back to the strategic plan for the next 3 to 5 years of growth and mergers and acquisition and diversification. But the thing is, like the diamond envelope, what I call the diamond envelope secret sauce, we have to shore everything up here first in order to take that and acquire or bring a company into our forefront or our business, our operation, our manufacturing to meld with our people. And instead of looking at that fearfully, we need to be more nimble and open to why we're doing things.
Yeah, you think about a person. If your core is strong, you can do so many other different things, different activities, different exercises. But if you don't have a strong core, then you're going to be faulty. You're not going to be able to do as much. It's the same way in a business. Your core needs to be strong. It needs to be resilient in that regard. So that way it allows you to reach out and bring in other things.
I love that. I'm going to steal that from you.
Go
'Cause
right
that's
ahead.
incredible. You said it perfectly. The core has to be stable.
Because if it's not, you've seen people that have no core muscles, they're falling all over themselves when they're trying to do things. But that's the last thing you want to do as a business. And you've already put some protections in. You've already mentioned that you have for your estimating and pricing, you already have some of that tribal knowledge now captured. So I think in some ways you are very much forward thinking because that's the hardest thing in this industry. We're going through that silver tsunami. So we're losing so many people. How can we capture that tribal knowledge, that history that we have, still respecting and dignifying those people, but still making sure that we can continue to grow?
Absolutely. And going back to your question about women in print, like there are so many women in print and externally outside of print. I will shout out Sandy Moyer from R.R. Donnelly. She's been a mentor of mine for over a year. There are just incredible people that know the old days of print and had to evolve over time to where we are today, where you have to be extremely competitive on RFQs and RFPs that are released with the big brands. And they've taught me a lot about where the industry is going and that you have to stay ahead of it. It's like you were talking about the core. Again, success is ever evolving over time. And this is an industry that changes and grows and pivots. And we weren't able to print something 10 years ago that we can now do inline, in-house on our presses today. Perfect example, tactile and sensory. It's been around forever, but until we really engage the Postal Service to help offer those discounts to our clients, that may have not been available before.
It's great that you are able to have that mentorship with another woman in the industry. And there's a lot more women in the industry than there were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And there's so few in C-suite roles like yourself. How can industries like printing continue building on the trajectory of getting more women into the C-suite, into leadership roles? Because I think in some ways we're very well suited for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think education and spreading the word, first and foremost. Women in manufacturing must get involved in all grade levels and age levels, whether it's participating in a STEM or STEAM night at your local junior high, whether it's mentoring one-on-one or through programs that exist. I know Manufacturing Institute has a Step Ahead mentoring program, whether it's sitting on a panel. Just yesterday, I was on a panel for R.R. Donnelly's International Women's Business Resource Group. And as I was telling my story about being a working mom with 3 young kids, in the chat came a woman saying, wow, I feel seen, #working mom. And so I think making those connections is extremely important at the community level. I think teaching my daughter and bringing her around Diamond Envelope is extremely important. That she sees that envelopes and manufacturing exist out there and that we make something. So bringing people in and inviting people into the plant tours, invite a Girl Scout group in, see if it goes to a bad. Maybe they can learn something there. But
Maybe they can have fun in the machine shop too.
exactly. With some pulleys and some small mechanics.
You never know.
As long as they have their hearing protection, closed-toed shoes, and safety glasses.
You know what? You
Yeah.
could just make sure it's on that field trip slip. Make sure you have all this stuff.
I know.
No worries.
Exactly. But I also think opening the door is extremely important. I heard once on a masterclass, lower that ladder, and that has stuck with me forever, is making sure that you are opening your network for any opportunity. I have a friend that has worked for a big financial corporation in the finance department in various roles. And I've said to her over and over, because she's not exactly happy there, why don't you go be a CEO or a CFO of a manufacturing company? Like, it's all going to transfer
Yeah.
and it's going to be really rewarding versus maybe the corporate engine that's not a fit for you anymore where you're at in life. So I think that's extremely important as well. Everyday conversations like that with your family and friends and getting them educated on that there's really good businesses, small and mid-size, primed for growth that don't have to be gobbled up by the private equities of the world and churned over every 3 to 5 years. Fortunately, we were a second generation that went into the business, and being women owned was extremely important to my mom and me to carry that legacy on. But beyond that, there's other companies that don't fortunately have that succession plan, and the second generation is not going in the business, especially small machine shops around the United States. And that is, again, going back to tribal knowledge, some women that are just educated and devoted and hungry, there's deals out there to be had one on one. Hey, train me on this. And over time, can I buy the business from you and grow the business from there? I think you have to get unique in telling these stories in order for people to look at it differently. That what is out there that maybe you don't look at every day.
Yeah, it's a lot of things that probably some women don't even come near to even look at it, to even consider it, because it's not something that's within their wheelhouse, within even their community grouping.
Yes, exactly. And being the first female chairwoman of the EMA is a pretty eye opening experience. And I'm so thankful to the other board members that sat in the room and put my name in for vice chair and to be chair eventually. Had it not been another woman that sat in that room, I'm not quite sure I would be in the role that I will take at the end of this year. I never sat back and just kept my mouth shut in a board
Mhm.
meeting. I'm going to ask the questions. I want to know more. Why are we spending X when we have Y to pay for?
Yeah.
We're in an industry that is still very heavily male dominated. There are still good old boys clubs that exist. And
Unfortunately, yes.
yes, unfortunately, although I am learning from my CEO of the EMA, Marie, we were at an event together at National Postal Forum, and it was for the Wilds, Women in Logistics and Distribution Services. And I was like,
Mhm.
why are there so many men here? This is supposed to be a women's event
Yeah.
and a women's networking event. And she goes, Susan, there are allies that we need, especially in the USPS. And so she gave me a different look on that versus just the good old boys club. There are allies that help promote women within the industry. But I also still think it's up to the women. I never felt like I had to ask for a seat at the table. I just said, I'd like to be in that meeting. I'm coming. And I've been fortunate enough to just start participating and nobody's kicked me out. I do remember a time at a young age that I'd fill out a comment card at a big meeting and say, I want to get involved. And this is when I was in my 20s. And that's just a part of me, who I am. Some people don't have the bandwidth or time to put out there, but I've always wanted to be involved and get to know more within
Mhm.
the larger organizations that exist in our industry. And nobody would ever follow up with me. And it was demoralizing at the time. So I'd go find another board or something else to volunteer within the community or another organization. But I always go back to the fact that I think you have to keep pushing forward for more responsibility as a woman and not wait to be asked. And then I think it's important to follow up and say, hey, I've shared this 3 times. I have interest in this. Why am I not getting any traction? Explain it to me so I understand. And then I either disagree and want to know more, even more, or I'll move on to something else, just as long as you're not wasting my time and dragging me along.
So now when talking about women in leadership roles, are there certain actions that companies can really take to help women to have that pathway to leadership?
Yeah, I think one really important item is to walk your shop floor walk your office every day. And I know that's hard to do when there's remote work. I am a big believer in on-site work because I just think the collaboration and the juices get flowing a little bit more. But walk the shop floor and see what women may have been overlooked because it might have been deemed a man's job. I don't have the exact facts, but I know it's been over 10 years. I think it was during one of the pivots or changes after the Great Recession, how we were looking to reinvent ourselves and our workforce, that we started looking at some of our female operators that knew multiple machines as adjusters. And in the envelope industry specifically, like female adjusters are not that popular or weren't 10 years ago. And I remember sitting in a meeting going, well, Vicky's been with us a long time and she knows the envelope equipment, she knows the offset equipment. Why aren't we looking to her to be an adjuster, an envelope adjuster? And investing in that has paid off for us. So we have over 5 female adjusters here at Diamond Envelope. At certain times on certain shifts, we have an all-female crew on certain machines, which we're extremely proud of and passionate about. Going back to Vicky, we nominated her for a Manufacturing Institute Step Ahead Award. And she won that award that year.
Awesome.
In a big cohort, but also got to go to Washington, D.C. for 2 days and get some great leadership training. And she's still with us today. She knows multiple of our machine sets. I think you really just get out there and start looking at people and start asking questions, start asking who's reliable on the floor and who has potential, and learning from the leaders and getting out of your office, your desk chair, your work from home office, and seeing who's around you that you can promote into these really key and critical roles.
That's amazing and so awesome that you're able to do that and to have those in some ways unicorns on your shop floor that maybe are not in a lot of shops.
Yes, that's exactly perfect. They are unicorns. They are amazing.
It's interesting the confidence that you have in yourself, in your abilities. That's something that a lot of women struggle with. And that's probably why they don't ask those questions, where they don't say, I'd like to be in that meeting. I'm going to be attending. They don't push themselves to be in those places. But you don't have an issue with that, which is amazing and lovely.
I still do at times.
It doesn't appear to.
Imposter syndrome, I think it exists sometimes. I think it exists for all of us. And it's hard because when I'm dealing with my friends and my network and my colleagues, especially here at Diamond Envelope, I am constantly the one to say, do you know how thankful and amazing you are? My executive director of admin, Diane, she's an integrator. She takes a lot of what we're doing and makes sure it happens and it gets done. And those roles are so few and far between. It's taken 2 or 3 hires to get to where I am with Diane now. And that's
Find the right person.
yes, exactly. And she came from a different industry, and I'm like, you are so valuable here. You have no idea. And when my friends say, I could never do what you're doing, I go, what do you mean? You do it in your field. It just looks different. So I think we're our own worst critics at times.
We are.
But even when I get asked to do certain things, I'll go and talk to Diane and be like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can put myself out there. I don't know if I'm on the same level as them. But again, I always go back to authenticity and vulnerability. I came from the generation before me that was a little bit more closed. We don't share information. You don't air your dirty laundry. And I learned very quickly how lonely that place is, especially for a working mom as a CEO. Like in a family business, it doesn't get much more lonelier than that.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's important to not be so closed because I think we only learn from each other's shared experience. And if I can help someone either get ahead or pay it forward themselves or open a network for them, I'm going to do it to pay it forward because I remember sitting in that chair going, nobody understands what it's like to be where I'm at right now.
Nobody understands what it's like to walk in my shoes, to deal with the things I'm dealing with, whether it's work, whether it's personal, whether it's family. Nobody understands. And
Yeah.
it's hard.
Yes, exactly. Last year was a big eye opener. I have 3 children. Madeline is 7, Brennan is 4, and Claire is 2 years old. So I am really in the thick of it.
You are definitely in the thick of it. Yes.
Yes, and it takes a village, it takes careful planning. And last year when Madeline was in kindergarten, it's very different than daycare where you're just dropping off and picking up and you're like passing ships with the other parents and there's not really volunteering experience because they're well-oiled machines. I love my daycare and my director of my daycare. She's incredible. But then she went to kindergarten, and all of a sudden, it's a
Different.
bigger community, it's very different. There are sign-up geniuses that go out of the blue at 10 AM, and by the time I'm out of a meeting at 10:37, all the spots have filled up. And so that is something that I try to carve out time to do when I know about it. It's really helpful. But also, I've formed a kind of a working mom group and we all look out for each other and have each other's back. Like that sign up genius is going out at 7 p.m. I'm still going to be in a board meeting. Hey, sign me up for this, or don't worry, I'm just taking a pass. Or the other day I sent a text, hey, this went live. I had no idea. Just wanted you guys to know in case you wanted to grab a spot to volunteer for Grandparents' Day. And I try to balance it. I try to balance what I'm doing. I try to ask myself, is it contributing to myself personally and professionally? Do I have the support at home and at work to take on an internal or external role when I'm being asked? The board position at the EMA, is this going to contribute to the long run goals that I have? And do I need to pass right now? And this opportunity might come available another time. That's almost, if I'm being really honest, a daily struggle of questions that I ask.
And honestly, for women, I think it is a daily struggle. For men, I don't think have those same questions, that have those same concerns. We're wired very differently. I think that is part of it, definitely. I know I talked with somebody, mom guilt is a huge thing that a lot of women have to deal with, which men are like, yeah, whatever, we're good. And they just move on. We're wired differently. We react differently. We communicate very differently.
Yes. There's the mom guilt. I had to deal with that last year too. And my mom, surprisingly, she is one of the strongest women I know. And she just says things that just click with you immediately.
Mhm.
I said, I want to be at school and volunteer for certain things. And like, I'm there to volunteer for something. And I see this mom there like every day. And good for her. That's great that she has the time and ability to do that. And my mom said to me very simply, and I hope this doesn't offend anyone, but she goes, Susan, your kids are going to school. You're meant to go to work. You're not supposed to go to school with your kid. You're not supposed to follow them to school. And she would ask me, like, is Diamond Envelope important to you? Is your role and what you do important to you? And it's those little conversations that remind me, yes, what I do is important, and showing my kids that I'm a working woman. I do tell my daughter, mom's a mom boss or a woman boss, and that it's important to me. And I carve out time where I can. The stigmatism also exists, though. And I don't know if you've seen the clips that go around that, like, by 9 a.m., a woman has made like 100 decisions
Yeah.
professionally and personally to make sure everybody is where they're supposed to be and doing what they're supposed to be doing. I think that is a bigger challenge for women. And thank God for the people that are around me, both my staff, as they had it harder than I do. And I think that I have to acknowledge that they help support me so I'm able to turn over more stuff to them so I can go volunteer as room mom for the Valentine's Day party or something.
Like you said, it takes a village, and it's that support system within your family or in community, within the company itself that really helps to make sure that women are seen and that they can really thrive in the roles that they have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it looks different. I think your village sometimes looks different than it used to. Like maybe the generation before or 2 generations before, it was always the grandparents and the aunts that watched after the kids. And now, especially with COVID, childcare has changed so much because for me, I need the dependability and reliability. So daycare was the right choice, along with a mix with my mom helping out here and there. That was important to me. But I think the village looks different, as in the working moms that I've met at school and said, hey, can you look out for me at this? Today it was Are they allowed to dress in spirit wear today or not? And just having that ability to text someone, and while at the same time my husband's like scrolling through emails and I got a response back, I'm like, yeah, she can wear that today. And he's, how do you know that? The network, the village that I'm building.
The network wins every time.
Exactly.
So as we're wrapping up, my favorite question, one question I ask everybody, is knowing what you know now. So based on your history and all the things you do, what advice would you give yourself if you were just starting out today?
This is such a hard question. So for me, this one's really personal. I think it goes back to that I never stepped outside the family business. So my advice would be to go outside the family business and get some experience. Being the youngest with siblings that are 14 and 18 years my senior, you're always looked at as the youngest and the baby sister in the room, which is still very good. It has its benefits. But at the same time, I think getting the experience from the outside is very important. You only know what you know. And having the inside look at Diamond Envelope, that's part of the reason I went and got my MBA too. And I had to fight for that because my father was a big believer that you learned everything on site at Diamond Envelope. My mom was a huge supporter of furthering the education. And so I worked full time and got my MBA on the weekends. And it was really important to me to have that in my background and allowed me to at least take a little step outside because I was with a cohort of people from all kinds of different businesses. And I was able to take back with some of the things I learned. And my dad was right in some aspects. There's certain parts of my MBA that, again, they can't teach what I do every day or what we do in manufacturing every day. It's a more global look. A Fortune 500 balance sheet is not the same as looking at Diamond Envelope's financial statements.
Yeah, but there's some principles that you can probably take from that would apply.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And having the support, I'm in a forum group, which is like a family business YPO that have helped me over the years get that external look. You share what's keeping you up at night and they hold you accountable to action items for the next meeting. Things like that have made me stronger. But again, my advice would be to my younger self, go outside the business and take a step away from Diamond Envelope. And that's really hard to admit because I've learned so much. But I think that has formed what I view as growing my advisory board for the future and the team that's around me. I want to hire people from the outside that are smarter, more knowledgeable, that push me, that challenge me to make me better.
Those experiences outside the company, they provide a perspective that you just don't have. You don't know what you don't know at that point.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Susan, it was a pleasure chatting with you today. Thank you for taking some time to spend a little time and talk through some of this. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us on this journey to celebrate and amplify the voices of women in the printing industry. If you have a story to share or know someone whose journey deserves to be highlighted, we'd love to hear from you. Together, let's continue inspiring and empowering the next generation of leaders. Until next time, keep leaving your imprint. This is Her Imprint. See you soon.